The quantum sensors aboard Deep Space Station Artemis had been quietly monitoring the cosmos for 15 years when they detected something unprecedented. Commander Diana Harrison stood at the main observation window, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of nearby nebula NGC 7293. Behind her, the station's detection array had begun pinging with increasing urgency. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant James Rodriguez's voice carried an edge she hadn't heard in their 3 years working together. Harrison turned from the view, crossing the polished deck with measured steps that betrayed none of the anticipation building in her chest. The sensor display showed an anomalous signal, structured and repeating, emanating from a region of space that should have been empty. "Analysis?" she asked, though she already suspected this was no natural phenomenon. "It's definitely artificial, ma'am. The pattern suggests a distress beacon." But Rodriguez hesitated, his dark eyes fixed on the scrolling data. "It's unlike anything in our database. The signal structure is too complex, too elegant to be human-made." Harrison's pulse quickened, but years of command training kept her voice steady. "Alert Admiral Patel. I want the Hyperion and the Orion diverted to our position. Whatever this is, we're going to handle it by the book." Within hours, the massive forms of humanity's 2 most advanced warships hung in space near the Artemis. Their presence was both reassuring and, Harrison hoped, unnecessary. The signal continued, growing stronger as they triangulated its exact location. "Signal source located," Rodriguez announced. "It's, my God." The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone on the bridge catch their breath. A massive vessel, easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest ships, drifted in space. Its design was organic, almost crystalline, with sweeping curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal frozen in zero gravity. But it wasn't the ship's beauty that commanded attention, it was the damage. Massive sections had been torn away, revealing skeletal infrastructure that pulsed with failing power systems. Around it, smaller vessels of similar design lay broken and dark. "Life signs," Harrison demanded. "Weak but present. Several hundred at least," Rodriguez replied. "Commander, they're broadcasting in multiple formats now. I think they're trying to communicate." Harrison straightened her uniform. "Put it through." "Commander," Rodriguez called out, his voice tight. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple signatures approaching at FTL speeds. Energy readings suggest they're armed." Harrison's jaw set firmly. "Alert all ships. Battle stations. Let's show the galaxy that humanity protects its friends." The klaxons began to sound, and Deep Space Station Artemis prepared for what might be humanity's first interstellar conflict. The die was cast. There would be no going back to the quiet solitude of deep space observation. Humanity had chosen its path, standing against aggression, protecting the vulnerable, even if it meant fighting an enemy they barely understood. The real question was, were they ready for the consequences of that choice? The crystalline spires of the luminary vessel cast prismatic shadows across Deep Space Station Artemis's main conference chamber. Commander Harrison sat across from First Speaker Lyra, the luminary leader whose translucent skin seemed to pulse with internal light. Between them, holograms danced, technical specifications, tactical readouts, and the ever-updating threat assessment of the approaching Nexus Dominion fleet. "Your weapons technology," Lyra's melodic voice carried seamlessly through the translator. "It's different from ours. Less elegant perhaps, but," her multifaceted eyes studied the readouts, "there's an unpredictability to it. The Dominion won't expect that." Admiral Patel's hologram nodded from his position at the table's head. "That's what we're counting on. Their ships may be more advanced, but they've never faced humanity's particular brand of innovation." He gestured to the tactical display where the combined human luminary fleet was taking shape. "The question is, can we integrate our systems in time?" Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward, his uniform crisp despite having worked for 36 hours straight. "We've made progress, sir," The luminary crystalline computing architecture is actually remarkably compatible with our quantum systems. It's as if, he paused, glancing at Lyra, as if their technology evolved to be adaptable. It did, Lyra confirmed, rising gracefully to manipulate the hologram. My people believe that true strength lies in harmony, not just between individuals, but between technologies, species, ideas. The Dominion. Her light dimmed slightly. They seek to impose uniformity. They destroy what they cannot control. Harrison watched as the combined fleet's capabilities were displayed. The Hyperion and Orion's raw firepower, complemented by the luminary's sophisticated shield technology. Human targeting systems merged with luminary sensor arrays. It was beautiful, in its way. Two completely different approaches to space warfare working in concert. Time to contact, Harrison asked, though she'd memorized the numbers. 18 hours, Rodriguez replied. Their fleet composition suggests a standard Dominion extinction protocol. They're not expecting resistance. Then let's give them something to remember. Admiral Patel's voice carried steel beneath its professional tone. Commander Harrison, you'll lead the combined fleet. The Luminary know their enemy, but you know how to think outside conventional tactical doctrine. That's what we need right now. Harrison nodded, studying the enemy fleet formation. The Dominion ships were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, efficient, logical, and utterly predictable to anyone who understood their base assumptions. Their weakness wasn't in their technology, but in their rigid thinking. First speaker Lyra. Harrison turned to the luminary leader. Your people's shield technology. Can it be modified to create a reverse polarity cascade? Lyra's skin brightened with interest. It's never been attempted. The energy requirements would be. We can handle that. Rodriguez interrupted, then caught himself. Sorry, Mom, but the Hyperion's new fusion core, if we route it through the crystalline matrices. Do it, Harrison ordered. And get me every pilot who's scored above 90% in chaos scenario training. We're going to show the Dominion what happens when you combine human unpredictability with luminary precision. The next hours were a blur of activity. Throughout the fleet, human and luminary crews worked together, learning each other's ways, adapting, innovating. The luminary's natural affinity for harmony made the integration smoother than anyone had dared hope, while humanity's creative approach to problem-solving opened up tactical possibilities the luminary had never considered. In the Artemis' newly established Joint Command Center, Harrison watched the countdown tick away. The combined fleet hung in space, a mixture of sleek human warships and crystalline luminary vessels, arranged in a formation that would have given any tactical eye a headache. It looked chaotic, almost haphazard, but there was a method to the madness. All ships report ready, Rodriguez announced. Shield integration is complete. Weapon synchronization at 98%. First speaker, Harrison turned to Lyra, who now stood beside her as Joint Fleet Commander. Your people joined us in harmony. Now we'll fight beside you in chaos. The Dominion won't know what hit them. Lyra's response was interrupted by a proximity alert. The Dominion fleet had arrived early, dozens of massive ships. Black as the void, their surfaces covered in geometric patterns that pulsed with deadly purpose. They dropped out of FTL in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. All ships, Harrison's voice carried across the combined fleet. Execute Operation Dionysus. Show these geometric absolutists what happens when order and chaos dance together. The battle was about to begin, and with it, the true test of whether this hastily forged alliance could stand against the galaxy's greatest threat. As Harrison gave the order to engage, she couldn't help but feel a fierce pride. Humanity's first major act on the galactic stage wouldn't be conquest or submission. It would be standing up for those who needed protection, fighting alongside new friends against those who would impose their will on the universe. The Dominion was about to learn that not everything in the universe could be calculated, controlled, or conquered. Sometimes, the most powerful force was the unexpected combination of different ways of thinking, fighting, and being. As the first shots were about to be fired, Harrison smiled. Win or lose, they were about to make history. The void between the fleets erupted in a dazzling display of energy as the Dominion's first salvos met the combined human luminary defense screen. Commander Harrison watched as the crystalline shields flickered and held, their newly modified frequencies dispersing the enemy fire in ways that defied conventional physics. Reverse polarity cascade holding at 87%. Rodriguez reported from his station, his voice tight but controlled. The Dominion's targeting algorithms are trying to adapt, but they can't predict the randomization patterns. First Speaker Lyra's skin pulsed with battle light as she coordinated with her ships through the Luminary's quantum crystalline network. Their confusion is growing. They've never encountered shields that react chaotically to organized attack patterns. Then let's add to their confusion, Harrison commanded. Execute attack pattern Dionysus Alpha. All ships. Commence randomized micro-jumps. The combined fleet burst into action. Human warships performed split-second FTL jumps in seemingly random patterns, while luminary vessels flowed through space like liquid crystal, their movements graceful yet unpredictable. The Dominion fleet's perfect geometric formation began to fracture as their targeting systems struggled to track the erratic movements. They're adjusting, Lyra warned. The Dominion's adaptive algorithms err. The station rocked as a Dominion beam sliced through their outer defensive screen. Warning klaxons blared as damage reports flooded in. Sections 12 through 15 reporting hull breaches. Rodriguez called out, emergency force fields holding. But they're learning, Commander. Fast. Harrison studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The Dominion ships had begun to break their rigid formation, attempting to match the chaos of the human luminary attack. But there was something mechanical, predictable about their randomness. It was chaos by formula. First Speaker, can your ships execute a crystalline resonance cascade? Lyra's eyes widened. Yes, but it would leave them vulnerable for approximately 3 seconds. Perfect. Harrison's fingers flew across her tactical console. Because that's exactly what we want them to think we're doing. Lieutenant Rodriguez, prepare to execute Protocol Omega. Transmit these targeting coordinates to the Hyperion and Orion. The next moments unfolded like a deadly dance. The luminary ships began to pulse with energy, their crystalline hulls resonating in harmony. The Dominion fleet responded exactly as predicted, shifting their formation to exploit what they perceived as a weakness. Now, Harrison ordered. Instead of a resonance cascade, the luminary vessels released a burst of quantum-entangled particles, a technology they'd integrated with human stealth systems over the past hours. The particles attached themselves to the Dominion ships' hulls, creating microscopic disruptions in their defensive fields. At the same instant, the Hyperion and Orion unleashed their main guns, massive coil guns that fired projectiles at near-relativistic speeds. The rounds, enhanced with luminary crystal technology, phased through the weakened points in the Dominion shields as if they didn't exist. The effect was devastating. 3 Dominion capital ships erupted in silent explosions, their perfectly ordered formations dissolving into chaos. Real chaos this time, born of desperation rather than calculation. Their command and control network is destabilizing, Rodriguez reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. They're trying to regroup, but another explosion lit up the void as a 4th Dominion vessel succumbed to the combined attack. The remaining enemy ships began to retreat, their movements jerky and uncoordinated without their central network to guide them. Should we pursue? Lyra asked, her skin pulsing with the colors of victory. Harrison shook her head. No, let them run. Let them take word back to their masters that the age of unopposed extinction protocols is over. As the Dominion fleet retreated into FTL, the combined human luminary force began damage assessment and repairs. The victory had been costly. Several ships damaged, hundreds injured, and some precious lives lost. But they had achieved something unprecedented. They had stood against the Dominion and won. "Commander," Rodriguez called out, his voice suddenly serious. "Long-range sensors are picking up something. Multiple signatures, hundreds of them, approaching from different vectors." Harrison turned to Lyra, whose expression confirmed her fears. "More Dominion ships?" "No," the first speaker replied, her tone mixed with wonder and concern. "These are others, species who have suffered under the Dominion's attacks. They've been watching, waiting to see if anyone could stand against them. Now, the tactical display filled with new contacts, ships of countless designs, each representing a different species, a different civilization that had lived in fear of the Dominion. They were coming now not to fight, but to join." Harrison looked out at the starfield, now dotted with arriving vessels of all shapes and sizes. What had started as a simple rescue operation had evolved into something far more significant, the beginning of a revolution against the Dominion's vision of enforced order. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. Tell them we're going to need a bigger conference room." The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Yet as Harrison watched ships from a dozen different species take up formation alongside the human and luminary vessels, she knew that everything had changed. The galaxy was about to learn that diversity, creativity, and cooperation were more powerful than any attempt to impose uniform order on the cosmos. Deep Space Station Artemis had never been designed to host representatives from 13 different species. The station's main conference chamber, hastily modified with environmental controls to accommodate various atmospheric needs, hummed with the whispered conversations of the gathered delegates. Commander Harrison stood at the chamber's center, surrounded by holograms showing tactical data from across known space. "The Dominion's response to their defeat has been extreme," she addressed the assembled representatives. "They've abandoned their methodical expansion patterns and are now consolidating their forces for what appears to be a massive counterattack." First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form shimmered as she manipulated the tactical display. "Their entire strategy has shifted. They're burning resources at an unprecedented rate, mobilizing fleets we didn't even know existed." "Good," rumbled Ambassador Kthak of the Vorathi, his scaled armor reflecting the hologram's light. "They're afraid. For the first time in their history, they're reacting from fear rather than calculation." Harrison nodded. "But that makes them more dangerous. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering a fleet large enough to overwhelm any defense we could mount, even with our combined forces." The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. The recent victory had brought hope, but the reality of the Dominion's vast resources was sobering. Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward, clutching a datapad that pulsed with combined human and luminary code. "Commander, if I may." At Harrison's nod, he continued, "We've been analyzing the quantum crystalline data from the battle. There's something about the way their ships interface with their control network, a vulnerability we might be able to exploit." The holographic display shifted, showing the intricate patterns of the Dominion's command and control systems. The various alien representatives leaned forward, their attention captured by the complex web of energy signatures and data flows. "Their entire military operates on perfect synchronization," Rodriguez explained. "Each ship is connected to a vast network that coordinates their actions with mathematical precision. But during the battle, when we disrupted that network, they fell into chaos," completed Dr. Naztul of the Helix Confederation, their tentacles writhing with excitement. "Their ships lost coherence, their tactics became primitive." Harrison's eyes narrowed as she studied the data. "You're suggesting we could use this on a larger scale? Disable their entire command network?" "Not disable," Lyra interjected, her skin pulsing with inspiration. "Transform. The crystalline resonance technology we used in the battle, if we could amplify it, combine it with elements from each of our species' technologies, we could rewrite their network protocols," Rodriguez finished. "Turn their perfect order against them." The chamber buzzed with renewed energy as representatives began offering their own technological insights. The Vorathi's quantum disruption fields, the Helix Confederation's bioorganic computing, Each species had something unique to contribute. It would require perfect timing, Harrison mused, studying the evolving plan. We'd need to get close enough to their command hub to implement this, and we'd have to do it before their main fleet launches their attack. Admiral Patel's hologram flickered to life in the chamber. The Security Council has reviewed the tactical data. Earth is committing everything we have to this operation. If we fail, there won't be a second chance. Harrison looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and other sensory organs of each species' representatives. What we're proposing has never been attempted. Combining technologies from 13 different species into a single coherent system. The Dominion believes that uniformity is strength, that diversity is weakness. Let's prove them wrong. Over the next days, Deep Space Station Artemis transformed into a hub of feverish activity. Engineers from every species worked together, combining their technologies in ways that defied conventional understanding. The station's laboratories birthed hybrid systems that seemed to bridge the gap between science and art. Harrison watched from the command center as the first tests of their combined technology came online. The sight was breathtaking. Crystalline matrices pulsing with bioorganic energy, quantum fields stabilized by human ingenuity, all working in harmony. Status report. She called out to Rodriguez, who hadn't left his station in what seemed like days. Integration is at 93% and climbing. He responded, his exhaustion evident, but his eyes bright with purpose. The luminary crystals are adapting to each new technological addition faster than we predicted. It's like, he searched for words, like they're learning from each other. Commander, Lyra appeared at Harrison's side, her usually steady glow flickering with urgency. Long-range sensors have detected movement. The Dominion fleet is mobilizing earlier than expected. We estimate no more than 48 hours before they launch their attack. Harrison's jaw set firmly. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of not just humanity or the Luminary, but all species who valued their independence and uniqueness. Alert all commands, she ordered. Operation Harmony begins in 12 hours. Let's show the Dominion that the greatest power in the universe isn't perfect order. It's the beautiful complexity that comes from working together. As the Allied fleet began to assemble, Harrison couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Ships of every size and design, each representing a different approach to the challenges of space travel, each bringing their own strength to the coming battle. They were about to attempt something unprecedented, not just in terms of military action, but in proving that diversity and cooperation could overcome even the most powerful force of uniformity the galaxy had ever known. The countdown had begun. The next few hours would determine whether the future belonged to the Dominion's vision of enforced perfection, or to a galaxy where differences were celebrated and strength came from harmony rather than homogeneity. The combined fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Dominion's home system, a symphony of different technologies working in perfect harmony. Commander Harrison stood on the bridge of the Artemis, now transformed into the nerve center of the most diverse military force ever assembled in known space. Dominion Defense Grid detecting our presence, Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across controls that merge human interfaces with crystalline computing. Their response is exactly as predicted. They're deploying in standard geometric patterns. Through the main viewport, Harrison watched as the Dominion's home fleet emerged from behind their massive orbital platforms. Thousands of ships, each identical to the next, arranged in perfect mathematical formations. Beautiful, in their way, but cold. Lifeless. All ships, implement Phase 1, Harrison ordered. Execute Operation Harmony. The Allied fleet burst into action, but not in the chaos of their previous engagement. This time, their movements followed a deeper pattern, one that drew from the strengths of all 13 species. Luminary vessels pulsed with crystalline energy, creating quantum resonance fields that the Vorathi ships enhanced with their disruption technology. Human vessels moved in seemingly random patterns that nevertheless followed a complex algorithm, developed by the Helix Confederation's biocomputers. The Dominion fleet responded exactly as their programming dictated, adjusting their formations to counter what their systems perceived as tactical chaos. But this time, the Allies' apparent disorder masked a deeper purpose. "They're taking the bait," Lyra announced, her crystalline form glowing brighter. "Their command network is attempting to impose order on our movements. Beginning Phase 2. At her signal, the Allied fleet's formation shifted. The apparently random movements resolved into a complex, multidimensional pattern. Each ship became a note in a vast cosmic symphony, their technologies harmonizing in ways that defied the Dominion's understanding of physics. Multiple Dominion vessels showing signs of network disruption, Rodriguez called out. "Their targeting systems are trying to adapt, but they can't process the complexity of our formation." Harrison watched as the first cracks appeared in the Dominion's perfect geometry. Their ships began to move erratically, their rigid programming unable to cope with a pattern that incorporated both order and chaos, unity and diversity. "Now," Harrison commanded, "all ships, initiate the resonance cascade." The effect was beyond anything they had dared to hope for. A wave of quantum resonance swept through the Dominion fleet, their perfect network becoming the very thing that undid them. Ship after ship fell silent as their rigid programming encountered something it could never have been designed to resist: true complexity. Dominion Command Hub is experiencing total systems failure, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with wonder. "Their entire network. It's not just shutting down, it's transforming." Through the massive viewport, Harrison watched as the Dominion's mighty fleet drifted to a halt. Their ships, once moving with mechanical precision, now floated aimlessly in space. But something else was happening. The ships themselves were changing, their uniform surfaces beginning to ripple with new patterns. "The resonance cascade," Lyra explained, her voice filled with awe. "It didn't just disrupt their network. It's rewriting their base protocols, teaching them harmony." Hours later, as the Allied fleet secured the system, Harrison stood in the Artemis observation deck, watching as representatives from all 13 species worked together to establish contact with the transformed Dominion ships. Early reports suggested that the rigid AI controlling the fleet had been fundamentally altered, not destroyed, but evolved into something new, something that could understand the value of diversity. Admiral Patel's hologram appeared beside her. "The Security Council has reviewed the preliminary reports. They're calling it the most significant moment in human history. In all our histories, really." Harrison nodded, her eyes on the scene before her. Ships of all designs moved peacefully through space, working together to help the former Dominion vessels adjust to their new existence. "We proved something today, Admiral. Something the Dominion could never understand. That true strength doesn't come from enforcing uniformity. It comes from celebrating our differences and finding ways to make them work together." "And what happens now?" Patil asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Harrison smiled, watching as a former Dominion ship, its surface now rippling with organic patterns, was guided into formation by a joint team of human and luminary engineers. "Now we build something new, something better. A galaxy where every species, every civilization can contribute their unique strengths to the whole without losing what makes them special." The Artemis's main communications channel suddenly lit up with messages from across known space, more species emerging from hiding, seeking to join the alliance that had done the impossible. Harrison felt a profound sense of rightness. When the threat had come, humanity had chosen to stand not just for themselves, but for the principle that diversity was strength, that differences should be celebrated rather than erased. As she watched the combined fleet begin their work of transformation rather than destruction, Harrison realized that they had achieved something far greater than a military victory. They had proven that the future belonged not to those who sought to impose their vision of perfection on others, but to those who could find beauty in the complex harmony of different voices joining together in common cause. The threat had come not for humans, but humanity had taken action. And in doing so, They had helped forge a new way forward for all species who dared to dream of a galaxy where unity did not require uniformity, where strength came from diversity, and where the greatest adventures still lay ahead.